All right, we just wrapped up the first portion of the Power BI Power Query module. In that first portion, we went over several steps of that data cleanup. Now we're going to work on creating fact and dimension tables. Once you're ready, hop on into Power Query and we will create those fact and dimension tables. See you there. We are going to get into the data modeling portion. You take a look at the screen. This is the model view, and this is what we are going to produce. We have fact tables and dimension tables. There is a fact table for state, for school, county, district, and subgroup data dictionary. There's a dimension table for school, test level, subject, county, subgroup, and district. At this time, open up Power Query in your Power BI. For data normalization and creating the fact and dimension tables, we're going to make sure that we do this in an orderly manner. The data dictionary table, we're going to leave as is. We're not going to do anything with this. So we're going to drag this up to the top, and it's going to remain there. For each of the other tables, county, district, school, and state, we're going to duplicate these tables, and then out of those tables, we're going to create the fact table and then the dimension table. The subgroup data dictionary table, that is another one that we are going to send to the top because we're not going to do anything with that. That information is vital for us to understand the data set though, so we're going to leave that there. Let's start off with the school table. You're going to right click on the school table and duplicate. First thing, we'll give it a new name. For dimension, we will simply call it dim for dimension school. And this is where we're only going to keep certain columns. We will keep the school name, the entity ID, the school CTDS, charter, and alternative. So we're going to keep school name, hold down the control key while you select the other ones, school entity ID, school CTDS, charter, and alternative. From here, you will click on remove columns and then remove other columns. Now click on school entity ID, go to remove rows, and then remove duplicates. And what we are left with is a unique list of all of the school names with school entity ID and the CTDS. This is your first dimension table. Now we're going to do the same thing for district. You're going to right click on district, duplicate. First thing you do is you give it a new name. Go dim district. And this is where we will select only the district name, the district entity ID, and the district CTDS. Go to remove columns, remove other columns. And then under district entity ID, remove rows and remove duplicates. Now we are left with 622 distinct and unique district entity IDs. Okay, next we're going to go to county. Right click on county, click on duplicate. The first thing we do is give it a name, dim county. And for this dimension table, we are going to choose county, then remove columns and remove other columns. And then lastly, remove rows and then remove duplicates. Now we are left with the 15 counties. Next, we will create a new dimension group on subgroup. From this, we will use the school table. So right click, duplicate, and this will be for the subgroup. For this one, we will select subgroup. So the dimension name, we will give it a new name. It will be dim subgroup. Now that we have subgroup selected, this is where you'll go to choose columns. Now that you have subgroup selected, this is where you'll go to remove columns and then remove other columns. And then remove rows and remove duplicates. Now we have our subgroup dimension table. Now we're going to duplicate the school table again a couple more times, and this will be to extract out a couple more dimension tables, one for test level and then one for subject. So right click on school table, click on duplicate. We'll give this one a name for dim test level. That tells us we go to the test level data field with the test level column selected. Go to remove columns, remove other columns, and then the same process of removing duplicates. Click on remove rows and then remove duplicates. For the next dimension table, we're going to duplicate the school table again. Right click on school, click on duplicate, give it a name. That's the first step that we do. Be dim subject. So we have the subject column here, and we will click on remove columns, remove other columns, remove rows, remove duplicates. There's only one value. This is a science assessment. And that is all that we need to do for that dimension table. And now we will create the fact tables. We're going to start off with the school fact table. So right click on it. We're going to duplicate the table. We're going to give it the name fact underscore school. This helps you differentiate out what the name is and the fact that it is a fact table. The columns that we are going to remove in the fact table will be the school name. Hold down Control and select School CTDS, Charter, Alternative, District Name, District CTDS, and then go to Remove Columns. Click on Remove Columns. Now that we have the first fact table, we're going to work on the rest of them. Next one is district. Right click on district, click on duplicate. We'll change the name of this to fact underscore district. So the columns you're going to remove are district name, district CTDS, and that is it for this table. Just those two, district name and then district CTDS. Those are the two columns you will remove for the fact district table. Click on remove columns and then remove columns. Next, we have the fact county table. We're going to right click on county, click on duplicate, change the name of the table to fact underscore county. And if you take a look at this table, the unique identifier is the county column. There are no other columns in here that are duplicative of other tables. So for the sake of learning and consistency of building up this data model and data set, and for the dashboard, we created a fact table out of the county table. And so there really isn't anything to do for this table to change, to enhance, that gets us ready to build up the data model and the relationships. Now, to clean things up a little bit further, we don't want all of these tables to load on the front end. So we will click on state, hold down the Shift key, click on County. We're going to right click, move to Group, move to New Group, and we're going to name this Unloaded Data. In the description, data that won't be loaded to the model. What that does is it cleanly organizes the queries that we have into folders. The unloaded data, these are the tables that we do not want to load up into our data model on the front end of Power BI. And how we achieve this is for each table, we will right click on the table and then include in report refresh and enable load. And you'll get a pop-up that says possible data loss warning. Disabling load will remove the table from the report, and any visuals that uses its columns will be broken. Continue. Do the same for the remaining. Now, if you take a look, that first one, we chose include in report refresh. We unchecked that, and then we unchecked load. You'll notice that the tables themselves are now a little grayed out and they are italicized. That tells us that these tables will not be loaded into the data model. I noticed that we did not create a fact table for the state table. To create that table, right click on the state, click on duplicate, and then I moved it over to other queries, right click on it, and then enable load. Now the first step in any of these is we give it a new name, fact state. And if we take a look at the data, let's see if there's anything in here that needs to be removed as far as duplicative information. It does not appear so. So similarly to county, we simply create the fact table for the purpose of this educational course. We change the name to fact, and now we will double check to make sure that we have all of the dimension and fact tables that we are supposed to have. We have a fact table for state, county, district, school, dimension table for subject, test level, subgroup, county, district, and school. And we did not do anything with the subgroup data dictionary, nor did we do anything with the data dictionary table itself. Our next step will be to go into the data model view of Power Query and create the relationships. From here, click on Close and Apply, and then we'll go into the relationship view of Power BI. Okay, let's click on Close and Apply. You'll see all the dimension and fact tables load up. On the right-hand side, we have our data dictionary, dimension, county, district, school, subgroup, subject, test level, and then the fact tables for county, district, school, state, and then the subgroup data dictionary. Next, we're going to go into model view, and since we have not set up any relationships yet, let's move all of these to where we can see. So first, going to zoom out so we can reposition all the tables. Place all of the fact tables near the center. All of the dimension tables at the top. And let's zoom in a little bit so we can have everything onto one large view here. So for each dimension table, let's move them out around a little bit more. Let's place the school dimension above the school, district above the district, county above the county, and then the subject and subgroup we'll just place on top of each other above the state. For the dimension of school, let's take the school entity ID, select it, hold it down, and then drag it over to school entity ID on the fact table. What you're going to see is the cardinality is a one-to-many relationship. You want to make sure that the make this relationship active is checked, that the cross-filtered direction is single. Click on save, and you will see, let's expand that a little bit. Now we have a one-to-many relationship there. The asterisk is an indicator of many. And for each fact table that we have a school entity ID, we would make that relationship. Since there is only one fact table that has the school entity ID, that is the only relationship for that one that we will make. Moving over to the right, under test level, you can drag test level over to test level under fact, school table, same one-to-many relationship. The from table is the dimension test level, and the to table will be the fact school table. Hit save. Let's check the fact state table. Do we have a test level? Yes, we do. So we can drag that over, create a relationship for that table. It is a one-to-many relationship. Click on save. Now let's check the district. Yes, we have a relationship there to build. Again, another one-to-many from the dimension table test level to the table fact district. Save that. Now we go over to the county table. Same thing, we'll build that relationship. Again, one-to-many, make that relationship active. It's a cross-filter direction single. And those are all the fact tables that we can apply the dimension test level to. Now let's look at subject. Under school, dimension subject goes to fact school subject. We will create a one-to-many relationship. The same thing for the fact table state. One-to-many. Click on save. Again, for district, one-to-many, make the relationship active, and the cross-filter direction being single. And then finally, the fact county table, one-to-many, make the relationship active. Our lines are getting a little crowded there for the relationships. So to clean that up for the view, anytime that you move one of the tables, the connecting points, the lines, will automatically adjust and fill in the space that you have the room for. Let's move on to subgroup. We have a subgroup in each of the fact tables. Let's go ahead and make that relationship now. Now there is one other table that we can connect the subgroup to, and that is the subgroup data dictionary. And that's going to be a one-to-one. Now why is this one different? Is because there's only one occurrence of that piece of information for each table. And real quick, let's go over to the table view. Look at the subgroup data dictionary. And here we have two columns. One is the subgroup and the other one is the definition of that subgroup. And this helps you understand the data set even more by looking at how is the subgroup defined. Under the definition, you'll find that it is either a student that identifies as or is all students, or it is a student that has had an assessment accommodation. So this specific table just helps us further understand what the subgroup definition means. Okay, moving back to the model view. The next one to look at is the dimension district table. And here we will take the unique identifier, which is the district entity ID, and then apply that to each of the fact tables where it exists. You can ask yourself the question, does it exist in this table? Yes. If it does, then we can make that relationship happen. Under school, district entity ID, we'll make it a one-to-many. If we look under the fact state table, is there a district entity ID? There's not. So let's move on to the next fact table. Yes. One-to-many, hit save. And then we can move on to county. Is there a district entity ID? There's not. Okay. There are no more relationships that we can create from this one. And then finally, we have county. For each of the fact tables that have county in it, we'll create that relationship. Starting at school, create a one-to-many relationship from the county to the fact table of school. Cross-filter direction is single. And go ahead and repeat this process for the other fact tables. And I actually do not like the way that this looks. It's very hard to read and see what's going on here. So I have another model that I'm going to replicate for showing the data model. So we're going to move the state all the way to the left. School will be next for the fact table, then county, then district, then the data dictionary for the subgroup. And for dimension school, we'll have that on the far left. Dimension test level will be next to that. And then dimension subject. And then county. And then subgroup. Then district. Okay, that is a lot cleaner. Now that we've created the data model and all of the relationships, the next steps will be to start building the report. I have some important notes about creating fact tables. While we're duplicating the original data tables to create our fact tables, this is done to preserve the raw imported versions for instructional purposes. In a production setting, analysts will often convert the original imported table directly into a fact table once necessary dimension tables have been extracted. Here, we're duplicating the tables to make it easier for you to retrace your steps and make comparisons of the transformations and troubleshoot as needed. Fact tables store measurable values of interest, such as the number of students tested or the percent of students passing, while referencing the associated dimension tables through foreign keys. This separation makes the model more flexible and performant, meaning it performs better, your visualizations will work more reliably. And another note on fact tables are focused on numerical analysis. They must contain only measurable fields and linking values to maintain performance, clarity, and flexibility when building future reports or expanding to additional years of data. Okay, that's a wrap for the Power Query portion of this Power BI. Okay, that's a wrap for the Power Query. This is going to put an end. Okay, that's a wrap for the Power BI Module 2. This is going to Up next we have Module 3, which is bringing your data to life. We will go into the report view and then start to build out the dashboard. All of the visualizations that we're going to add in, all the metrics that you're going to be able to see. You'll be able to see a preview of the final product that we're going to build together. And I'm also going to provide a JSON file. That's it. That's the theme profile that will have all the colors in it that you're going to use for the dashboard. Now you can choose your own colors. You'll see how to load in the JSON theme file, which will allow you to customize all of the visualizations that you have across the board, make things a little bit more streamlined. And it will greatly reduce the amount of time that you spend on each visualization so that you don't have to repeat steps over and over and over again across all of the different visualizations. For those of you going to the in-person class, I will see you there. If you are doing the video walkthrough, whenever you're ready, go ahead and click on the next video.